We have a very special guest with us today.
The most
Somebody
special.
that Eric, you've known basically for her entire life.
I'm pretty sure for all of it. I don't know. There's foggy there in the early days.
When I first met you, you had jet black hair because you were just a little baby on Gladman Way. And this is awesome that you've agreed to do this, because if my dad had asked me to do anything, I'd have told him where to go and how to get there.
So we have my
Eric's daughter, Vivian. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, I want to maybe just start with a commendation, if I can. Because earlier I was trying to kind of just pick your brain and get an idea of what you wanted to talk about, and you totally copied your dad. I don't know if he gave you instruction or if you just, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but I'll often like talk to your dad and I'll say, hey, what are we going to talk about today? And he's like, let's not talk about it now. Let's wait. Let's hit that record button and let's let it happen organically. And then I came to you and I'm like, so what do you want to talk about? You're like, nope, not going to tell you. I'm like, dang it, Green. How dare you? I love it. And so now I have to ask, what grinds your gears? What do you want to talk about today?
Yeah, so what grinds my gears is middle-aged men who think the world needs another podcast.
You are listening to The Soapbox. I'm Paul.
And I'm Eric.
This all started out with a list. What's that all about?
So I've compiled a list over the years of things that just bother me, things that grind my gears. And I shared that list with you.
And I thought, you know what? That would make interesting conversation. Sometimes I'm going to want to agree with you, and it's just going to be something we talk about. Other times, though, I'm going to want to steel man the opposite position, because I think that's just interesting conversation.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I'm always right, but Paul's just a really good debater.
Hey,
Quick hits, give them a try. Sell you what quads are gears awry. Quick hits, they aren't that long. Then they didn't need to risk this song.
we have got the most bizarre format right now.
Yes,
And
we
that
do.
format is a Super Bowl party with a whole lot of people here. And we are grabbing people that don't even want to be on the show today
Against their will,
against their will.
as if they had free will. I mean, but hey, that's another one.
Do you want to give a little bio here for who's on the mic right now, Mr. Piper?
So we have Chris Piper, who only goes by Piper, and you've heard his name when Horse came on. We've talked about Piper plenty.
Oh, yeah.
He even reportedly listens to some episodes in the car.
I do.
Piper, welcome to the Soapbox.
Hey, happy to be here. Let's climb on the box together.
So, you knew what we were going to do to you when we put those headphones on.
Oh, generally speaking, yeah.
What grinds your gears?
Man,
Dogs barking during a podcast.
all right, everybody take a shot, right?
Take a shot.
Take a shot.
You guys know me. I can soapbox on things that grind me all day long when given the moment to plan ahead, which I didn't have here.
Right.
So coming into it with no notice, the only thing that popped in my mind, and it's part of our commute here this evening to this party, is this general lack in society anymore of just like common courtesy and common decency.
Ooh.
Right? And I'm thinking specifically about how people navigate in traffic.
Ooh.
But it expands. And the reason why this was prescient in my mind is that I was at Costco earlier today dealing with the same thing, with people competing for just a stupid parking spot in a Costco parking lot, and then tooling around a Costco store just oblivious to everyone around them, like they're the only ones in the store.
Yes.
What do you call that?
So
main
this
character?
may actually be a whole, like a feature length episode, which we won't do to you because that's a commitment. But this is an idea that just last week that I was talking to Eric about, and I've characterized it, and I've seen it characterized previously. This is not my own idea specifically, but I've heard it called, and I've adopted the phraseology, main character syndrome.
Yeah.
Everything's about me.
Everything's about me. And
Right.
you might have heard people say things like rules for thee, but not for me.
Yeah.
But you can look at anything in society where there are expectations, protocols, or rules, and you will see people now behaving outside of those norms as if they're the only person that exists and there's nobody else that's impacted by those actions.
Yeah. Sure, but those same people will then become indignant. They'll become Karens when the coin is turned and someone has even inadvertently inconvenienced them.
Absolutely. And I do think that you can see this play out in lots of different ways. The way that I probably most frequently see this just in my day-to-day is walking on campus. We've talked about this briefly.
Yeah.
But walking on campus, it used to sort of be understood among people. You occupy the right side.
You drive on the right side of the
road.
road.
You drive on the right side of the road. And now folks are staring down at their phone. They're walking down the middle. They're oblivious
Stopping
if they're
in the
going
middle
slower.
with no hesitation, no awareness.
I was at the grocery store today. Granted, it was a little neighborhood Walmart in Palomar. And Chris and I were walking through the store. We're kind of in a hurry. And there were so many people there. We went at the wrong time. It was just busy. And we're walking around, and I told her, I was like, everywhere I turn, there's a person. If I'm trying to get to that spot of the shelf, there's a person there with a cart. And they're not even shopping. They're on their phone or they're thinking about something. And
maybe they're looking for a coupon or something, right? Maybe they've got a... But have enough self-awareness that if somebody's there... You make room for them. Yeah. And maybe even, oh, hey, sorry, were you wanting to get the Campbell's Chunky Soup? Let me get out of your way. I'm sorry.
And so at the end of all this, I'm ready to go. We need one more thing, and it's over there. And every path available to me to get to there is blocked by someone. And one person in particular was in one aisle, and I motioned to kind of go down the aisle, and I saw her, and I kind of backed up. And instead of getting out of the way, she got in the way, and she took over all the space. And I was like, I'm not going down this lane. So I went to the next one.
With no hesitation.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right. Like, there's one thing to be passive about it and to be in the way.
Yeah.
And either not recognize that you are and not remove yourself. But it's another thing to see a crowded aisle and move into the only alley and then
make it worse.
Just make it worse and stop in the middle of it. And I don't understand what has happened to this society that we are just completely oblivious to caring about anyone else in even the simplest of ways. You know, we can argue about taxes, we can argue about entitlements, and all that's fair. But when you just can't even leave a hole in the center of the aisle, it is symptomatic of a greater problem.
I'll tell you where I think this is coming from. I think we have overcorrected on bullying. So I think the 1980s, it was almost fashionable to bully other people, right?
I remember.
To a large extent, I think that was a social correcting mechanism where people who straight outside of the norm were put back in their place. And the only ones that weren't allowed to do that were the ones that held some sort of status or power. But I think what happened was you had two sort of simultaneous phenomenon that occurred culturally. One was this whole idea of participation trophies, right? We rewarded mediocrity. We made everybody feel special. We told everybody that they were a unique individual snowflake that had, such amazing intrinsic value without any act or consequence. They were just good because they exist. And, I do believe that there's value in human life. But I also believe in meritocracy, and I believe that as an individual, we should strive to achieve, we should strive to contribute, we should strive to make the world a better place. And that's not coupled with the reward of the participation trophy.
Right.
Also, we had the advent of the internet. And so now we have this amazing platform where everybody gets to show only the best part of themselves, and they've got a huge audience.
Social media in particular.
Social media in particular, but I would argue podcasts.
Oh, wow.
Hey, self-awareness time.
Right.
But no,
hey, anybody can edit down, right? Look at Kamala Harris, right?
So what you get from all of this is a sort of an epidemic of ego.
Yeah.
You get to filter what you present to the world. You get only positive feedback. Negative feedback is scrubbed. It's called cyberbullying. It's
Right,
not.
it's filtering.
It's filtering, and that's going to breed a certain mindset.
Right.
And
it's,
we
it's
may
definitely,
be.
it's definitely it's an echo chamber. It's reinforcing.
It is a form of an echo chamber, but it is the silo that every individual exists within, and some people don't respond to that well.
Well, I think you're on it. I mean, again, I can't speak to the minds of the individuals that that I'm passing by on a daily basis, but at large, there's no doubt that that's a lot of what's going on. Is people are living inside of bubbles and failing to recognize the bigger world that exists out there when they're existing inside of social media, when they're existing inside of social circles and not operating outside of those. And it's somewhat reinforcing when you go out into the world and you stay in that bubble, right? Then you're not contemplating the reality of the other person. There's also, and this is kind of expounding on perhaps what might be underlying some of this, and I'm sure you guys have touched on this somewhere in the past, but there's the whole idea of the other, right? Mm-hmm. There's them, and there's me, and there's the other, right? Yeah. And that's definitely part of society. And I don't think that this behavior in these mundane social circumstances of traffic and a local store aisle, I don't think that's an accident that there's the me and the other. Once you are in that mindset where there's my group, there's the me, and then there's the other. When you're out in that environment, it's very easy to just operationally go to, I am me, everyone else is the other. I need not be concerned with them.
We're forgetting, too, there's another piece of the puzzle, which was COVID. A lot of these behaviors, I think, are coming out of...
I can give you that, but how does a middle-aged woman justify a monumental change in civility based upon 2 out of 55 years of life experience?
You say that, but I mean, I feel like I've picked up weird, I wouldn't call them maybe anxieties, but probably anxiety-adjacent type behaviors in big crowds now. I'll go to Orange Theory, and it's a 3G, which means the room's full, and I'm like, man, I can't even stretch. Like I get a little kind of. So
I was kind of sitting on that point.
Yeah,
but I personally feel that
I feel a little more claustrophobic than I used to. It used to be fine. I like the bigger groups. I'm an extrovert. I like talking to people. I'm not shy in that way. But now it seems like I don't think I'm thinking about COVID. I'm not thinking about like germs. But there's like this kind of, and maybe it'll fade after a few years.
Just a new sense of your standard, your standard physical space.
6 feet. I want my 6 feet back. Right?
Well, I think what you're touching on is something I was sitting on for a second, but a point I definitely wanted to get to, and that is this other. Because let me first say, Piper, I fully agree. Right? I think the whole idea of the other is perfectly encapsulated in how we would talk to somebody online versus how we would talk to somebody face to face. And more of our interactions now are in that digital space. And so we become conditioned to behave and respond to other people in a way that we wouldn't in a face-to-face society.
Yeah, and I think that when we're in the face-to-face society, even, if you're not actively engaging with the other individual, I think people are somehow...
It is very
flipping
easy to
into that alternate mode. Whereas once you speak to them, they're like, oh, they're very apologetic and civility comes in place.
Yes.
But if there's no eye contact, if there's no conversation, then all of that is somehow it's off the table.
And I do think I also want to underscore what Eric says too. And I wouldn't have framed it through COVID, though I think COVID has exacerbated it. I think one of the things that modern day society is struggling with, and it's probably COVID enhanced, it's probably got its roots in that dehumanization that occurs through online contact.
Remote work.
But anxiety, depression.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And when you're in those headspaces, right? And I don't know if you've ever experienced like true depression, true anxiety. I think we all go through an emotional spectrum where we can touch on that and we can understand it. But if you're truly feeling depressed for an extended period of time, there's this certain nihilism that comes to play with that, where all of a sudden you don't care what happens to you, and you certainly don't care what happens to other people. And so then if you want to park in the fire lane or the handicap spot, you don't really care because secretly you're also thinking, you know what? If I get hit by a semi-truck on the way home, that wouldn't be terrible, right? And so all these other things that we look at as necessary social graces actually are completely inconsequential because you're dealing with somebody that is so far removed from even treating themselves with dignity and respect that they couldn't possibly treat other people with that same expected level.
I mean, I think there's a ton of sense there.
And I don't think it's univariate, right? All the things we're touching on are probably all contributing factors to this sort of cultural psyche.
Yeah, I mean, I follow you there. It's definitely complex, and there's no doubt that there's a lot of layers in what's happening with human psyche with the internet, and it's there are PhDs out there right now trying to understand this. I imagine, and as long as they don't get defunded, maybe we'll get some answers.
Hey, and maybe a PSA real quick too. If you are struggling with any of these things, reach out to someone. There are channels, there are avenues, there are groups.
There is help, and I think suicide is one of those things that it should not be an option. There are plenty of other very radical things that you can do that are not going to be as ugly or as permanent.
No.
So for sure, if you're struggling, get help.
So we tried to convince Piper to take 5 minutes to sit with us, and he was like, I don't really have a good idea. I'm drinking my beer. We just hit 13, 14 minutes. You did awesome. This is a quick hit.
It flows like water once you get the headphones on.
Once you put the headphones on,
and
love it.
You did awesome. I think we could have you on for the long form.
It wasn't a concern about being able to have words fall in my mouth. It was
you wanted the right ones.
Having something meaningful to talk about.
Well, you hit a good one, so good job. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for the time, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, we're going a little crazy with the format here. We have had one special guest who blew my mind with the best dad joke ever as a, 16, 17-year-old girl. And now we've got the youngest guest we've ever had on the podcast. What is your name? How old are you?
I'm Owen, and I am 9 years old.
9 years old, Owen. Welcome to the Soapbox. Do you know what it is? Do you even know what this is? This is weird, right?
Well, I've never done one before.
Okay, well, you're doing great so far. But I will say, like, the whole idea is just Eric and I are longtime friends. We disagree on a whole lot of things, but for some reason we like each other a lot, and we have great conversations. And we thought, you know what? It'd be kind of fun to record it. Couple middle-aged guys putting their ideas out into the world.
That's what we need more of.
I think we need more of that. Yeah, I don't know why. I said to myself one day, you know what? I've hit that age where I either have to build miniature battleships or I have to do a podcast. That's like my options.
Yeah.
So you're 9, and that would mean that you are fourth grader. Is that correct?
Nope, third.
Third. Ooh, okay. Third grader. And what do you think about school so far?
Well, it's good for the most part.
For the most part. What is the thing that annoys you the most about school or your classmates?
Well, the thing that annoys me most about school is that you have to wait 7 hours to go home again.
Ooh, yeah, it's a long day.
And you only get 2 days off. If you're lucky, maybe 3.
That's super lame.
Holidays are rare.
Now, do they at least feed you well? Do you like the school lunches?
Yeah, I like them. Sometimes they have funnel cakes and pizza.
Okay, school pizza is a very controversial topic.
Wait, eat a funnel cake. There's a dog barking.
Yep.
Eat a funnel cake. It's a rule we have. Anytime you hear a dog, you have to eat a funnel cake.
Yep.
That's fine.
So, school pizza. Are you triangle pizza or do you have square pizza at school?
Triangle.
Ooh.
Is it good?
Yeah.
It is. My son hates school pizza. He is 7 years old. He is a first grader. And on days where they serve school pizza, he comes home hungry.
I remember when I was in first grade, I had this substitute teacher, and she would, one of the writing days, the first 10 people to finish would get a bag of marshmallows.
A bag of marshmallows?
And she would give us giant Smarties. And
Are you talking like the full-size bag, the big one?
No, she would dump them into it.
Oh, like a Ziploc bag?
Yeah.
Okay, that's still pretty sweet. Like, Eric's never given me marshmallows for doing good at work.
I mean, gave you good ratings once. I don't know.
Okay. I guess that works. But it's not marshmallows.
Got a raise. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I'll go buy my own marshmallows.
See?
Now, other question for you with pizza.
What?
Do they still serve pizza with corn?
Not my school.
Not your school?
Not any school ever. What are you talking about?
Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay, I know you're not officially on the podcast, but Eric's daughter's here, and I at least got one person that's not looking at me like I'm a crazy person. Can you just yell into the microphone and verify this is a thing? Oh, her channel's muted. We didn't hear.
Right.
Okay, one more time.
This is a thing.
It is a thing.
Yeah.
So some schools, they are like, okay, pizza's not a vegetable. We need to serve it with a vegetable. So they pick the least vegetable-like
The
vegetable.
starchiest.
The starchiest thing, because pizza's already bread, right? It's mostly bread.
It doesn't have a cornmeal underneath the dough anyway. I mean,
Well, cafeterias since the
Right.
1900s, 1990s, way back in the day, scoop of corn with your pizza. And I don't know any family on planet Earth that eats corn while eating pizza. Have you ever gotten like Domino's delivered and you're like, hey, go open up a can of corn?
and then yeah.
No, this should be illegal.
But I have put Cheeto Puffs on my pizza. It's really good.
Really?
You know what I did? I did at Dunbar when I was in high school. I would get the like chocolate peanut butter sticks. I forget what they were called, but they were. It was like
Was this the Twix with
it
the
was,
peanut butter?
It's kind of, it was like a Twix. It wasn't Twix.
Reese's?
It wasn't a nutty butter, maybe, but it was like a log of peanut butter with the chocolate all around it. I'd get that, and then I'd get a vanilla pudding, and I would take a bite of the thing, dip it in the vanilla pudding, and eat it.
Because you were living your best life.
I mean, because it was like $1.50,
Yes.
and that was my lunch. Because otherwise, you'd have to pay $3 or $4 probably for the Papa John's
Yep.
pizza, which was good, but you know.
But it came with a luxury tax. You couldn't
Yeah.
afford it. Awesome.
Okay.
So, long school days, school food is pretty good. Let me ask you one other question, and then we'll let you go because we're at 5 minutes already. But
Okay.
what do you think about the Rizzler, Skibbity Toilet, Ohio Sigma? Do people still use these words?
Yes, a lot.
Is it cringe?
Mainly.
Mainly?
What does any of it mean?
Yeah, what is Skibbity Toilet?
Well, it's a show that it's a YouTube thing that people made up, and they at Walmart you can find like you can get boxes of toys and you reveal what you got.
So it's like a whole series, like a web
Yes.
series.
It's like
Is
this
it-
huge big thing.
Do you watch it?
No, I'm
Is
not
it-
allowed to watch YouTube.
Oh, well, your parents are probably good people then, because I've heard it characterized as brain rot, and
It is.
the kids that like say that kind of stuff all the time, I don't map them as being very high on a distribution of intelligence. I don't think they're smart people, and I think you seem like a pretty put together kid. You seem pretty smart.
Okay.
I mean, I said cowabunga, dude. Hang 10. I mean, that was
Gnarly.
That was gnarly. That was my language. So
Yeah,
I think, you know,
I guess we had our own brain rot.
we did. But hey, there's Super Bowl going on. Watch the big game. And hey, tell all your friends you're on a podcast.
Yes.
They should listen. Well, should
And
they?
you could listen, but
Yeah.
you're not allowed to because it's on YouTube.
Yeah, that's true.
Can't you just find it on anything?
You
I think we can
yeah.
get it on Spotify for you.
It's
buddy.
on
We got you covered.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
I know you're
all the places.
We got this.
Yep.
Hey.
We'll make it happen.
Thanks a bunch, Owen.
Welcome to the SoapBox. I don't even know you all. So my name is Paul. This is Eric. Do you know Eric?
I do know Eric. I've known Eric for my entire life.
That's right.
Okay. So what are your all's names?
I'm Evan.
Evan
I'm
and
Caitlin.
Evan and Caitlin.
Yeah.
Welcome. Evan, I think this is your house, right?
This is my house.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm still piecing together relationships
Yeah.
at this Super Bowl party.
Yeah.
There's a lot of background noise. We're going to have dogs barking. It's going to be just a weird environment.
But we do have a producer finally. Owen, who was just on the podcast, is our
Oh.
producer.
Yep.
He just sits quietly in the background, make sure everything goes perfectly, right?
Yep. He's also going to be promoting us later. He's got our business cards, so he'll be taking that to school and making sure that we get a couple new listeners out of the deal. So that'll be awesome. Here's the format. Here's the whole thing. Because you all know that podcasts now are a dime a dozen, and most people want to talk about like politics or they want to talk about sports. Really what we're interested in is what grinds your gears. Like, what is it that annoys you?
Oh my gosh.
It sounds like I might have struck
Yeah,
something
I have
right
a
out of
few
the gate.
things.
Do you-
Caitlin, you can go first.
Yeah, tell us, Caitlin.
I know I've talked to Evan before about it in class, but definitely when people interrupt other people.
Hold on,
and,
I'm gonna
like-
let you finish, but no, please go ahead.
Well done. Well done.
But like whenever like you're like in a story or like you're telling something and someone just decides to chime in and like not even like acknowledges you talking and just keeps talking instead of saying, "Oh my bad," like you keep going, just keeps talking, and it's so annoying.
You should try doing a podcast with Paul. It's wait.
Hey. One of the things I think Eric does well, I hope I do this well as well, is we do a fair amount of listening because both of us will have a rabbit trail we go down, a story that we tell. And I think it works well to just kind of quietly maybe take a note or whatever. And if you want to make a counterpoint, don't interrupt to do it. Let the other person finish their point first.
Yeah.
Do you think that a lot of the interruptions and the things that really like get under your skin, is that based in somebody's just desire to contribute to the conversation, or do you think there is a fair bit of like one-upsmanship associated with that?
I feel like sometimes it's both. It also just depends on like the person.
With this person that she's talking about,
Let's
though,
not name check them because this
No,
is
yeah,
no,
no.
we
maybe
are
going
not
on
going
the
to be
internet.
dropping any names.
We're-
We're not going to be dropping any identifying information. But
That's
this
fair.
person, I do know who she is talking about.
Okay. This is
In
real.
particular, it is a lot of one-upping.
Oh.
And if you're going to
Yes.
constantly one-upping, if you're going to constantly like one-up me, when I've told you like, hey, I don't like it when people interrupt me and it like really pisses me off.
Yeah.
And you consistently do that without even checking yourself or asking other people to check you. You're not doing your part to, I don't know, reduce the amount of
Conflict
Yeah.
and pain
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
anxiety in the world for sure.
Let me say this. A lot of times we try to steel man the other side of the argument, and sometimes we don't fully agree with it. In this case, I agree with you both. But as a steel man argument for the other side, sometimes I need to interrupt because I'm old and I'm going to forget what I want to say. And if I don't get it out there, so your case is probably not that. You're just talking about some young student, I'm assuming. But for me, sometimes
Yeah,
I
I
have
just
to...
have ADHD. I
Yeah.
forget to take my meds. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
So sometimes you want to jump in, not for malice and not for one-upsmanship, but just because I don't want to forget. And what you're talking about, I really get, and I want to interject. So, yeah.
I think there are some people that don't get social cues.
me.
Well, that's a fantastic amount of self-awareness because you've also just self-identified as ADHD. My wife is ADHD. That was you, right? You said that?
Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
me.
see your mouth
Me-
moving, so
well, me and
sometimes I don't know
me
who's
and
talking.
Caitlin have very similar sounding voices.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
That's okay. So I do think like, you know, especially in the case of ADHD, you've got one thing that you're going to hyper focus on. And if you happen to get a trigger in conversation of a thing that you're mapping one idea to, there's almost like so much of an excitement associated with that you need to get it out because you're afraid you're going to lose it in the stream, right?
Yeah.
So I can see maybe how that would happen for you. But the other thing that I think is often the case with this, and again, I'm taking the opposite position here, not to be argumentative, just to keep the conversation flowing. But sometimes people think that they are giving you a positive social cue when in fact they are being interrupting and rude. They want you to know that they are interested, that they are listening, and that they're thinking about what you are saying. And so they're trying to offer something up in response, but they just do it in a stupid way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that because I connect a lot of what people are telling me to personal experiences that I've had. And I have noticed that does tend to seem like I'm trying to one-up people, but it's just me trying to make that connection between an experience that I've already had and the experience that you're describing to me.
And I will say, we just met, but I have never met this other person, so I'm already on your side, and I think they're a jerk.
You're right. She's a she. All right, we've narrowed it down.
Narrowed it down, there is like
51% of the population.
very high percentage of female students in our school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
And that's
that
really the
doesn't- yeah.
only...
Qualify then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying what school I go to because that's
That would
too
narrow it
personal.
down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
It's
no,
not like
that's
people
personal.
couldn't
That's
look
too
that up
personal.
because
Nah,
your
we're not gonna-
dad's been on the podcast.
Nah, we're not going to do that.
Hey, how about this, Evan? What is your thing? What is your grinds my gears?
I get very easily angry when I'm driving, but I've noticed that it's specifically with slow drivers. Like if I'm driving in a 55 and you're going 10 under and you're not about to make a turn, step on the gas.
Yeah.
Like it is on the right. Please, for the love of God, just step on the gas. It's not that hard.
Now, are you a new driver? How long have you been driving?
About a year.
About a year.
Yeah.
Have you found that people will often get in a hurry to get in front of you? Like they'll make a right turn and get in front of you? and then proceed to go slower than you were going? Because that's my driving pet peeve right there.
No, most of the time it's whenever it's just like a split street where it's just one lane going one way and one going the other.
Two lane road.
Yeah,
and-
2-lane
yeah.
road,
Yeah.
no passing.
Yeah.
So usually they're already in front of me and I can't pass them.
One of the things I come from a traffic safety background, as you maybe know, and one of the things I've learned is that looking at some of the data, a speed differential, the difference between the two speeds, can be a safety issue. So actually driving too slow can be a safety hazard, and I think a lot of people don't get that. They think
Because they think going
going
slower is safer.
And there's a lot of evidence that shows that if you're not keeping up with traffic, if you're not going that 55, whether you're speeding, and obviously speeding's worse, but if you're going too slow, that can be a safety hazard too.
Yeah,
So-
but like if you're going 10 under, like the other day I was driving in my neighborhood, and neighborhoods it's 25 miles an hour speed limit. Like that's just
So there's no
All
reason
over.
to go 15 because you may
Yeah.
as well be stopped at
yeah.
that point.
No, this person the other day was going 5 miles per hour in the neighborhood without having to make a turn, and there was 0 stop signs like coming up. 0 stop signs, and I was like, are you serious right now?
Like,
why are
is
you
this
going
real life?
Like why are you going 5 miles per hour?
Now, let me ask you a personal question here, and this is going to feel confrontational.
Mm-hmm.
It's not coming from a place of malice. Are you a poor planner with your time?
I don't think I'm a poor planner.
Are
As
you
to
often
say-
late places is what I'm asking. Is the reason for
No.
the need for speed that the person in front of you is prohibiting you from getting to school or work on time?
No, I have issues with time where I always think I'm gonna be late when in actuality I'm probably
Yeah,
gonna
me
be too
too.
early.
Ooh.
So I leave school like I leave the house like 30 minutes before I have to be at school, and I live not even 10 minutes away from where I go.
So you have a lot of wait time wherever
Yeah.
you're going to be.
Yeah. So I tend to leave a lot earlier than I need to, especially if I have plans later in the afternoon. But
So that shoots everything I was
Yeah.
about to say right in the foot then.
There
you go.
Because I was going to say, hey, maybe your issue is that you're late places.
No, I think it sounds like you just want people to follow the rules.
Yeah.
We did a podcast on this about just don't feel like you're the only driver on the road, or you should just there's a rule, that's a speed limit. You should go that, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but 10 miles an hour, that's yeah.
There's a meme, and it's on a social network that you don't use because you're not in your 30s or 40s, but on Facebook.
I do use that.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
you're one of the few then. So you may have seen the meme then, where it's like, I can't wait to retire so that I can set my alarm clock and get up and then drive slow and make everybody late for work. And so I do think
Yeah.
that some people are doing that with intent, with malice. and
I did just see that there's a thing in Japan where you can put a certain bumper sticker on your car if you're of a certain age, and it basically signifies to all the other drivers that you're old, you're an old driver, eyesight's bad, reaction time's slow, give me a little grace. And that might
I
be
would almost prefer that.
Yeah, I mean-
so
Yeah.
at least I know.
Yeah.
Like I know it's similar to the student drivers like stickers. Like I know a lot of people. Like me personally, I would rather die than have one of those on my car.
Sure,
But
yes.
I understand that it does give other drivers like information that they could need in a situation where they could have been driving for 20-30 years and they
Yeah.
know like it's just a reflex, and then it's a student driver who doesn't know.
I had
quite
the
as
student
much.
driver magnet on my car while Vivian was learning to drive. When she got her own car, she did not want that sticker on. But I had it on mine for a while, and I was like, I'm going to get out of the speeding tickets, and I'm going to get...
Look at you, Mr. Stolen Valor, with
I'm
your
kidding.
military
Yeah. Well,
ID,
I
and
know-
I'm
your fake
kidding.
student driver.
I know a few of, I know both of our school resource officers, and I tend to be in front of them on the way to school, so I'm like, I'm gonna go right at the speed limit because I know that They're
You're that
probably
driver
not,
that's like, be cool, hit
Yeah.
like, I know that I'm doing nothing wrong, but I'm terrified that
That
they're gonna
is-
pull me over as a joke, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna be sobbing as soon as I
That
roll
is
my
the
window
same
down.
mentality as like if you go into a store and they didn't have what you were looking for, and then you leave
That's
and
exactly
you're like,
what happens to me.
try to look like I'm not stealing.
Yeah.
I thought I was the only one.
I
Other
need to
people
buy
have
something
it?
Yeah,
else.
every time.
I cannot leave a store having not bought something and not feel like. So this is the thing. I never brought it up
this is
because
the
I
thing.
assumed I was the only one. But yeah,
Only if I was already previously planning on buying something.
yeah.
For some reason, whenever I go into the store knowing like, okay, I'm just looking around, I don't feel as guilty about it. But if I'm going in with the mentality of I am here for this one thing, like something, and they don't have it, I'm like, well,
You almost feel the need to explain yourself.
yeah.
Like, hey, I was here
Yeah.
for kombucha, but you guys don't have the lemon berry
Yeah.
flavor that I like, and so I am leaving without
Yeah.
stealing things. You may pat me down.
Yeah. Like, feel free. I know you have super high-tech security, like, systems.
And meanwhile,
but
the guy at Kroger's like, I make $7 an
he's
hour.
like, I really
Please
don't
steal.
care.
I do not care.
most of that goes to the union anyway. Like, I really don't care.
Yep.
So our producer's getting antsy. I'm getting the word. We need to cut it, but we have a moment for the final thought from each of you. Evan, we'll start from you. Final thought. Something you want to say on a podcast. Get it out there. Go.
Don't be.
Oh, okay.
Love y'all.
There you love
it
it.
is.
Love it. Caitlin,
Oh my gosh.
you're going second. You had time to prepare.
I was gonna
That
think
makes it
too.
worse. That makes it worse.
I would say like don't be like she said, like don't be rude for no reason.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna be rude, have a purpose.
Oh, okay.
Like, have a
So
reason.
use rude
Yeah.
as a tool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get down with that.
All right, Eric, what's your final thought? Go.
Oh, my final thought is, well, I've done a lot of this on the podcast. I don't want to reiterate stuff, but really, when you're driving, like, don't be selfish.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't
I
go
think-
20 miles under the speed limit.
I feel like in all the crash data I've ever looked at and all the reasons for crashes, if you take selfishness out, you could
You
get rid of
eliminate a bunch.
pretty much all.
Yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
going to speed. You're not going to drink and drive. You're not going to all these things. Don't be selfish.
Yeah.
I'll just take all of yours and I'll rebrand it ever so slightly.
Oh, he can't even come up with his own idea.
Listen, R&D, rip off and duplicate.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, mine is this. Have some self-awareness or practice the art of self-awareness. In the situation where you're the slow driver, perhaps, and I've done this before, if I'm in a neighborhood where I don't know where I'm going or if I'm following GPS and I'm not very confident and I see somebody riding my bumper, I'll pull over and I'll let them pass.
Put the hazards on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll always
Sticker.
do that.
Yeah.
This
So,
person
yeah,
was
just-
right in the middle of the road.
Have some self-awareness. If you're the guy in the shopping center and your cart's blocking the aisle, get out of the way.
Yeah.
Even if you have to come back
Yeah.
to where you were just standing, but just a little bit of self-awareness, just a little bit of grace for other people, and I think we would be in a much better situation overall.
Love it. All right. Thanks for joining the podcast.
Yeah,
you.
thanks for
Thank you
having
for
us.
Thanks for listening to the Soapbox. Eric, how can people find us?
Well, conveniently, we put everything on our Linktree site. You can go to Linktree, search SoapBox Lex, and you'll find all of our socials there, plus ways to reach us, ways to engage, and some of our original content, so you can see some of the other stuff that we do.